And we are live.
We're
Guys, I'd like
live.
to welcome you to the Let's Talk Fishing podcast. My name is Jay Angel, and I'm going to be your podcaster for this evening. With me tonight, I have Connor Boss.
Nice
Connor
to meet
Boss
y'all.
works with Sword Fishing Products. How you doing tonight, Connor?
I'm doing good, man. I'm glad to be on here with you, talk about the brand and talk fishing.
Yes, you work for Sword Fishing Products. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your company and your knives?
Yeah, definitely. So the company was started back in 2019, which was a tough year for everyone here. Like we had COVID going on, a lot of businesses shut down. People couldn't really go out and do everything that they wanted to do. So crazy time to start a business, but no one saw it coming, right? So Stephen Vandenhavel, he's the owner of the company. He had a lot of knowledge in, sourcing, manufacturing, how to start a business, and he's wicked smart with numbers. So he said, I'm going to start my own business. And like myself and everyone on our team, we all have a huge passion for fishing. So he got into the fishing space, and we came out with a line of fillet knives, and we have some other products as well. But I've got one here to take out. I guess I'll show you the box. So if you ever get a knife from us, it's going to come in a cool box like this. It almost looks like
Wow.
an Apple box. It's high end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you just pop her open, and this is what you'll see. So we've got a whole line of knives.
Wow.
We make titanium fishing pliers. We've got some leather products like tool belts, leather tool sheaths, but we're really known for our fillet knives. So when you take it out of the sheath, this is a Kydex sheath. It's got a
I
clip
heard
here.
that.
So this will clip on the back of a 5-gallon bucket, which is super convenient if you're bleeding your fish and you're sticking them in there. Kydex is also something that most gun holsters are made from. So
Sure.
it's really durable. Go ahead.
So what is that knife made of?
So the steel itself is a carbon steel.
Okay.
So with a carbon steel blade, it's much harder than traditional stainless.
Sure.
It's going to hold its edge. It's going to stay sharper a lot longer. And then we coat that in a Teflon and a titanium to help prevent rust.
Yes.
If you're fishing in a saltwater environment, yes.
I was just going to say, man, if it can stand up against salt water, it's good.
Exactly. You need something that can hold up in that environment, because once outside of something that's titanium, once it touches salt, it's going to crap quick.
Done.
Exactly.
We have a couple of comments I'd like to go over here. First of all, Ryan Snyder, our buddy from Florida, said, best knives I've ever used. He has 2, and he's about to buy a 3rd.
Love it. Love it.
And also, Cajun Rob is also a podcaster, and he I
don't see
Cajun Rob said I'd poke my eye out. Cajun Rob said I'd poke my eye out with that, but also he says great products.
Thank you, Cajun Rob. Love it.
But Cajun Rob's a great friend of mine. He's also a podcaster. He does Co-Angler Corner, which can be.
I assume he lives down over in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's actually from this area, but now he lives up in the great state of Kentucky, which is a great place to be if you're a bass fisherman.
For sure. Absolutely.
So back to your knives, man. I'm sorry I didn't want to get those.
No, you're good. It's fun to interact with everyone in the comments. That's sweet. But yeah, like I was saying, you got the Kydex sheath, carbon steel blade. It's got the coating over it, so it holds up really well in the salt water. It's going to hold up great in fresh water. And then our claim to fame here, outside of how long, they stay sharp, is really this handle. So it's a G10 handle, which is a gun grip material. Most guys that hunt fish, and most guys that fish hunt. So it's a familiar feeling to a lot of people. And, it's not going to slip when it's getting wet or getting slimy. And that's what people love about it.
And your titanium pliers, I go through as much time as I spend down on the salt. I go through probably 3 pairs of pliers a year, at least.
Yeah.
You use them once, and you're sitting there fighting with a freaking redfish, trying to, you got your hand on its throat, trying. It's like, man, I'm
Right.
taking this one home.
Right.
But then you get home and I wash it off, I soap it up, and you can almost hear the rust.
Yeah. Well, Jay, we might have to get you some titanium pliers. It's time to upgrade.
Yeah, I also need a knife, man.
A knife as well.
Because the same thing happens. Those Walmart knives, just even the wood rust.
Well, it just everything in the salt, man, it just breaks down. That's what happens.
Yeah, including me.
So that was, that's the whole goal with Sword, man. We're all diehard fishermen. Even though we haven't been in the industry per se for that long, the business is in its 5th year and we're doing great. We've been fishing our whole lives. So
yes,
we understand what fishermen need,
See,
and
that's what I like. That's why I told you before the show, I work with smaller companies because they have people like you. I want fishing products made by fishermen and sold by fishermen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But we're hoping to become a big company.
You can't, well, of course,
on our way.
If you get it on the ground floor, you're gold.
That's it, man.
But man, because you can't BS a guy like me. You can't BSer,
I wouldn't even try.
You can't. I really, Connor, you caught an amazing trout. I've only fished for trout for about 5 years now.
Yeah.
But man, I fished with some of the very best trout fishermen here in Louisiana. I have never, my biggest is 25, and it's downhill from there.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, I would consider myself to be a great fisherman, but that one was just dumb luck. But I'd rather be lucky than good, as they say.
Yes, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
You were good enough to get that fish in because, as all of us know, trout with their soft mouths, man, you got to come on, please.
That's
please,
it.
Please.
Yes.
A sweet walker in, man. Okay, tell me the story.
So it's not that long of a story, but I grew up in the Chicagoland area. Went to school in Minnesota, and then when I finished up school, I ended up moving down to Florida. My brother and I, we had both moved out of the house. My parents sold the house in Chicago. They moved down to Florida, and I was like, well, what am I going to do, right? So I moved down to Florida near my parents, and obviously I wanted to go fish. I spent my whole life bass fishing, walleye, northern pike, and I was ready to start catching some saltwater fish. So for about 2 weeks, man, I didn't know the area. I had an idea about saltwater fishing, but, not anywhere where I'm at now. And there was all these vacant lots around my parents' neighborhood right on the bay. So I'd go find the lots that no one was building on yet. No one was going to chase me off. So would find a lot and I'd fish. So for about a week, I didn't catch anything, right? I'm just throwing artificial. And it's tough to be like a shoreline fisherman because if you're in a spot that's accessible, but there's no fish there and that's all you're fishing,
Yep.
You might get lucky, but you're probably not going to catch much fish. So that day, it was probably about 2 weeks of being down in Florida. I said, today's the day, man. I'm going to catch fish. I got out there probably 4:30, 5 a.m., ready to rock. And maybe 5-6 casts in, I hooked this 35-inch speckled trout. 35. And it's on I'm using my bass fishing stuff, right? I got my bait caster. It was what was the lure? It was like a Rapala X-Rap. It was a mullet colored lure. Just like a suspending lure. Cast out, rip it, and boom, like I'm hooked up. So excited. Call my dad while I'm fighting this fish. I'm like, Dad, you gotta get down here. Like, I'm hooked up to something real right now. And, I land it. My dad gets over. We measure it 35, little over 35, I might add. But measure it and, send it back, And I had no idea how special that was at the time.
Then you found out that would have been a state record.
Right. That's a unicorn. But to me, coming down from Chicago, I'm like, this is just saltwater fishing for me now. Like everything's great. Like my life is good. So I had no idea. And I was talking to people, around town that I would run into, I had just moved there. So trying to make some new friends and stuff. And
Uh-oh.
the fishermen that I would speak to would, we're talking fishing. I'd show them my fish and everyone had this, what's going on?
I think we're back.
Oh, did we cut out?
Okay, man. Keep talking.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, for sure.
Keep talking.
So I'm caught the fish, snapped a bunch of pictures, got them on my phone, and as I'm going around town, I'm meeting people because I had just moved down from Chicago and I wanted to get some new friends. And the fishermen I'm talking to, I'm showing them photos of this trout, and everyone is just blown away by this fish. And I'm just like, man, like it's awesome, but like it's just a fish, like whatever. And I was down in Florida for about 8 years. I still go down all the time. Now I'm up in Chicago, but from the last 8 years, I haven't caught a speckled trout over like 23 inches. So now I know that I caught a unicorn. Like that just doesn't happen unless you're over in Texas. But even then,
anything over 18 is a big speckled trout. Anything over 20 is very big.
For sure. And they're delicious to eat.
That's just a special fish,
Absolutely.
And my biggest is 25. I'm sure most people, I've caught one bigger than that. No, I've not caught one bigger than that.
25 is that's a great trout. But
okay. Ryan Snyder just said the state record is the world record as well. It's 17 pounds and some change. Goodness.
It's nuts. I can't even imagine what that fish looked like.
40 inches long. It looks like a northern pike.
Yeah, bigger. Like one of those freak ones you catch up in Canada.
Yeah, my biggest is 48 inches. That was caught in freaking north of Fairbanks, Alaska.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those places. As far as speckled trout, man, you need really good equipment to catch those. That's why I like to use Grant rods. This is a Cuda right here.
Awesome. Yeah. Jim makes some phenomenal rods. I've got a few of them. I love the roller rods for offshore fishing.
Sure.
Phenomenal. Bulletproof.
But this is a popping cork. Undertaker corks is my favorite. What I like about this is a lot of times, like you said, when you're shore fishing, you have to be able to catapult that out.
Sure.
And a lot of times, even when you're boat fishing, because you pull up on a spot, it's this deep, going to this deep, going to that deep, and you can't get your boat over those 3 inches. So you got to be able to catapult that thing out there. And now you got over 100 feet of line out, and you're trying to use a popping cork, pop, 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 pop,
Sure.
Reel. And then all of a sudden you see that popping cork go, thunk, and try to set a hook with 100 feet of line out.
Yeah, for sure. There's there might be a lot of slack in that line. So
that's why I said reel.
Exactly.
Don't let the slack come in the line, guys. And man, but it's the same thing. You don't want to set the hook too hard on a speck because you can actually pull it right through his mouth.
Yeah, they've got really soft mouths, paper thin mouths. So you want to almost just reel into them rather than rip them.
Yes. But Ryan wants to know if you've been offshore lately.
Lately, I have not been offshore. So I have. I'm living up in Chicago. So I've been doing a good bit of ice fishing. Back in November, I did some steelhead fishing. I went out with Eric Hatia. He's a pretty awesome charter captain. We actually caught, I think it was 41 steelhead in like 6 hours.
Jeez.
It was crazy. It was ridiculous. It was so fun.
Your arms must have been tired.
Honestly, they were. And this isn't a shot at freshwater people by any means. I never thought my arms would get tired cranking on freshwater fish, and I was proved totally wrong.
I'm telling you, I lived right up in Oscoda, Michigan, at Wordsmith Air Force Base back in the early '90s. I lived up there for 3 years, and I fished steelhead almost every day. I was lucky if I caught one fish. And I was in the Al Sabo River, which is famous for steelhead.
Yeah.
It comes right out of Lake Huron, or goes right into Lake Huron, I guess, But those fish came out of Lake Huron, and I would follow them up the river, follow them back down. I knew where they were. I could see them. But 40,
It was truly insane. The guy, his operation is second to none. You go with that guy, you're going to catch fish. Period.
Were you trolling for him?
We weren't, man. We were just casting artificial little square nose crankbaits, and they were all over.
Yeah,
right out of Milwaukee. Caught a few of them on skein, I should say like little egg sacks.
That's so much fun.
Artificial is my favorite way to catch fish, hands down.
Oh yeah,
it just doesn't work as well as the real deal.
That day it did.
I suppose that day it did, correct. But if we're talking saltwater, I love using like live bait. Still love using artificial, but live bait seems to be king.
Well, see, this little rig right here with this thing underneath it. This thing, I don't like using it, but just like you said with live bait,
yeah,
that thing calls the fish in because
sure.
It sounds like I've heard it sounds like a shrimp, flapping its tail as it jumps out of the water, trying to escape a predator.
And I've seen how they sit really well. Like the way, if they're sitting on bottom, they sit more on their head, so that tail's sticking up. It looks really natural and great bait.
I would much rather have a swim bait, just even if I have to do this to get them to bite on a swim bait. It's just much purer when there's nothing between you and that lure, and you can just
for sure. I'm with you.
Then it's the way I'm working that. I know how to work a jig. I grew up fishing in Minnesota. I grew up going up to Minnesota, going up to Canada, going up to northern Wisconsin. Well, you know where I'm from. I'm from the Land area, just like you.
Yeah.
And we either went to Wisconsin or Michigan.
Exactly. Those are great spots. I grew up fishing. There was one awesome lake in Crystal Lake where I grew up called Three Oaks. I spent a lot of time fishing there, but my dad, he had an 18-foot Lund. I want to say it was a 150 Yamaha. It might have been a 250. I don't remember.
You must have had a Pro V.
It was a great boat. That's all I remember. And we caught a lot of fish on it. We'd go up to Lake Delavan in Wisconsin.
Oh, man.
We'd smash them there.
I've only fished Delavan probably 100 times.
Yeah, same. I'd love to go back.
Boy, there were some deep weed lines there. We would just slowly snake along those weed lines with two big suckers out. You never knew if you're going to catch a 4-pound walleye, a big old northern pike, or a 5-pound largemouth.
Yeah, man. There's a great variety of fish in there, and I was 90% of the time that we went, we caught fish. So,
awesome. Yeah,
we fished right Lake Geneva a lot too. What was that?
Delavan over by the yacht club.
Yeah. And then Lake Geneva, that's not far from there. That's another great fishery. Hit that a lot. And it's a bit of a party lake. So once like 10 p.m., once 10 a.m. rolls around, you get your fishing done early and then you get off. Yeah. But good fish.
Then you hit the bars. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is Wisconsin,
Yes.
Oh yeah, good times, man. Yeah, I spent a lot of time. In fact, a good friend of mine I used to write about, his name was Dave Dewey. He was a guide there.
Okay.
I'd fish with him probably 3 times a year, and I'd take my son out there to go pike fishing with. Man.
Are you talking Delavan or Geneva?
Delavan.
Okay.
Delavan was a little easier to fish than Geneva. It wasn't gin clear, it was just clear.
Sure. Yeah. It was a great lake, man. I've got a lot of good memories over there. The little tackle shop across the street from the boat ramp. I think Lakeside Bait and Tackle. I think that's what it was called. Lakeside Tackle.
And they sold suckers.
Yeah, that we'd go there. We'd get what we needed. Typically we'd fish the shoreline, all the weeds, and use Senkos, catch bass, and then I'd always have one big bait trolling out the back of the boat, just drifting it for that big northern that would come by. And maybe every other trip we'd get a nice northern, and I loved it. It was awesome.
Now that you're going to go there again, try that point of the yacht club. Go a little bit further away from the boat ramp, and stay right on the weed line, and drag suckers there. Drag them.
I'm writing that down.
While you're casting, well, you can call me too.
Sure.
While you're casting, stuff in over the weed line. Make huge cast and
yeah, for sure.
Pull something like a big stick bait.
Definitely, and nail some jumbos.
Bass, walleyes, northerns, it doesn't matter. There's even muskies in there from what I hear. I never caught a muskie there. Of course, I don't fish for muskies. I just think they're an annoyance.
I sadly, I have never caught a muskie. It's on my bucket list.
Really? Even in Minnesota?
Even in Minnesota, man. I fished the Mississippi River a good bit.
Even in Minnesota?
Yep. Even there. But fishing the Mississippi in the spots that I had where I went to school, we caught a lot of largemouth, smallmouth, crappie, bluegill, perch, and then we even caught those dogfish or bowfin, depending on what you call them, which those were really cool. But never was lucky enough to get a muskie. So I'm looking. Hopefully this year I'm going to make it over to like Lake St. Clair or
yes.
Yeah. Green Bay, I've heard.
Lake St. Clair is probably the best place for them.
That's what I've
heard.
Matt
Firestein.
Yeah, I saw you had him on your podcast.
Matt Firestein, man. I went to high school with him. Yeah, I went to high school with him. Him and I used to party together we're talking about 82.
That was good old days.
I'm dating myself. I'm old.
I've been hearing his name a whole lot. I was just at the.
He's hard to get in with because he's sometimes.
Yeah,
the Schomburg show.
So I was at the
just at the Schomburg show.
I think he was there, but I was over at the Muskie Expo in St. Charles, and I think he had a booth there. And I remember speaking to customers who were coming by the table checking out our knives. They were telling me that they were booking trips with him. So sounds like he's the top dog in the muskie world over here.
He is. Yeah. Well, but also Lake St.
Oop. What happened there? And you're back.
Hey, yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, I lost you there. I was about to text you. Yeah, I hear you. I see you. We're good.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You were saying Lake St. Clair?
It's the Connor show now. Lake St. Clair has, it just has become in the last 20 years one of the best muskie lakes in the world. I mean, it's just incredible.
Yeah. I'll get over there eventually. That's for sure.
And also, you don't have to just fish for those because it's also one of the better smallmouth bass lakes in the world. And if you go there in the spring, when those 10 million walleyes from Lake Erie run up the Detroit River, you've got a good chance at a 10-pounder.
For sure. And I've heard
10-pound walleyes in the Detroit River.
I've heard Green Bay is the spot for walleye, and over there on Lake Erie is another spot.
And muskies.
Yep.
In fact, when I had my Triton right before I left Illinois, like 2 years before I left Illinois, I bought a 19-foot Triton with a 200 on the back of it. And I bought that well, to fish the BFL up in La Crosse, which you've probably been to La Crosse, Wisconsin.
I have.
But also I went to Green Bay too a lot.
Awesome. Yeah. The Green Bay is cool. They've got a lot of great tackle shops over there, and the fishing
Oh, yeah.
is phenomenal. So it's great.
Lots of great tackle shops. Lots of, well, Green Bay all the way up Sturgeon Bay, Fish Creek, all the
Yeah.
way up there, man. They're tackle the whole way up, but particularly in Green Bay and Sturgeon Bay.
For sure.
Then also on the other side, you have Abrams and Menominee, Wisconsin too. The Menominee River. I've caught 5-6 pound walleyes in there. So they've got to have some good tackle shops there too.
For sure. I was just at a wedding over in Menominee. I wish I would have fished.
Yeah, I went up there with a guy I used to fish walleye tournaments with, and we just went what we called fun fishing since we were both tournament fishermen. And we went out one night and because we got blown off of Green Bay, and we caught 6 walleyes over 5 pounds.
Beautiful.
Within 200 yards of the boat ramp.
Yeah, you can't ask for more than that. That's a killer day.
He wanted to get complicated. And I said, man, I'm just going to put a worm and a split shot. I cast it out. And 5 minutes later, I had a big walleye.
That's it, man.
He's
Whatever
like,
works.
How do you do that? I said, 40 years of fishing.
Sure. Well, and it seems like they're plentiful. So there you go.
Yes, they are.
Got a good spot.
But, I knew just with that, just looking at that river, and I fished rivers so much.
You're right.
Just looks fun. Just like, my favorite river to catch walleyes other than the Illinois River, which is where I moved to before I left Illinois. But the Rock River, I caught so many walleyes in there. And that was just, young kid, 18 years old, walking up and down the river in an old tennis shoes and a pair of shorts.
Yeah. But now you're over in Louisiana and you're doing a lot of saltwater inshore fishing.
Oh, yeah. Salt,
What do you prefer?
Boy, that'd be like asking me which of my kids is my favorite.
Well, you've got a favorite, so which one?
Right now I'm obsessed with saltwater. I'm just
Sure.
obsessed with it because all the fish in the saltwater have teeth. They're all mean.
That's it.
They're not real finicky. If you can't catch them any other way, we always have a block of nasty shrimp, in one of the coolers.
For sure. They're going to eat it. They're going to eat it.
Just take that off and put it on the back of a jig and cast out one of these things.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Just, put it in the rod holder and loosen the drag, man. And while I'm casting and having fun with the other one.
Yeah. You're casting, waiting for that bite, the bite you want, but always having that bait out the back, ready to rock and roll. I do the same thing. Seems like the pop and cork technique is way more popular over where you're at in Louisiana, opposed to where I was at or where Sword's based out of over near like the Destin area. I mean, we use that technique, but
I like using this where I don't like using this in open water. I like using this back in the marsh where you're in close quarters. Sometimes, it's really good when you're trying to work a shoreline. That the redfish are right up against that roseau cane. So you cast this thing out and bounce it off the roseau cane and just let it, and the tide's gonna keep it going, and you can just kind of, work it and wait for that.
Yeah.
Roy Widgeon from USA Kayak Fishing Magazine is here. I just wanted to say hi to him, do a shout out. He's watching us. He said, that he wants to catch a walleye. You got to go to where he used to live in Minnesota. Then, man, that's Minnesota. They worship walleyes in northern Minnesota and Wisconsin.
They're good eaters, man. I mean, it depends on like what you're catching. I've caught a lot of walleye. Some give you a fight and some just come right in. But at the end of the day, it's a great catch. They're cool looking fish and they're delicious. So I love them.
Teeth.
Yeah.
They have teeth like a speck.
Yeah, they do. They almost have like fangs.
Also, a walleye will sit there and
sure,
just like a speck. And in fact, the first time I hooked into a big speck, it started shaking its head, and I'm like, what the heck is this? What the heck is this? And I'm like, it gave me goosebumps. Like, this feels like a walleye, but a 95-degree water temperature, this is not a walleye.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
So yeah, man, Roy, I if you really want to catch a lot of walleyes, book you a Lake Erie charter boat. I have the name of a couple of really excellent guys who a couple of my friends have actually used already, and I can highly recommend them.
For sure.
Also, that'd be a good place to market your knives because those boys clean fish.
They definitely do. Yeah, they definitely do.
In fact, when I went there, I was so tired by the end of the day after being on a charter boat, bringing in hundreds of walleyes. We just paid some guy to fillet all of our limits.
Yeah, dude, my favorite part of the walleye is the cheek. If you get one big enough where he actually has some good cheek meat, delicious.
Also, something I forgot to mention. I have had cheek meat lots of times. In fact, we used to fry those up with and I wouldn't tell anybody. People, what is these little fish balls? I'm like, I just leave those.
It's a little cheek.
Yeah, I wouldn't tell anybody because I want her.
Yeah, that's it. Same with grouper cheeks.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Delicious.
Roy, let me introduce Connor Boss from Sword Fishing Products. He makes some fantastic fillet knives. Why don't you show him one of those fillet knives, Connor?
Sure. Yeah. This is
and Gary, go ahead.
This is one of them. This is our 7-inch blade, our 7-inch medium flex. We've got a whole line of knives. So our 7-inch knife comes in a medium flex as well as a flexi. So depending on your preference, we've got the knife for you. I love the flexi blades simply because when it gets to skinning the fish, it makes that a lot easier. And there's a lot more sensitivity in the tip. So getting around rib bones is really nice. But there's definitely a use for a medium flex knife as well. I've cleaned a 200-pound swordfish with our 7-inch medium flex blade, and there's no issues. So,
wow. The best story I've heard about sword knives is by Gary. Oh, what is his name? The guy from Resolute.
Jerry.
The guy from Resolute Sport Fishing Charters.
Yeah.
Jerry Costabile. 1,500 salmon without sharpening that one once.
Yeah. Jerry.
Wow.
Jerry reached out. I guess it was maybe last summer, early spring. He saw one of our ads on Facebook. He reached out, and we had known that I was going to be moving back up to Chicago. We're trying to tackle the freshwater market up here. There really hasn't been any new knives introduced to the fishing space in a long time up here or even in the saltwater market. So when Jerry reached out, it was perfect timing. We got him in our guide program. He's been such a help to us in expanding up here, and he's a fish slayer. The dude catches fish. I would definitely recommend booking a charter with Jerry. That's for sure. He's fishing out of Kenosha on the Resolute.
Resolute Sport Fishing Charters, Jerry Costabile. Highly recommend it.
For sure. But yeah, he got through over 1,000 fish with that 9-inch flexi blade without having to put an edge back on it. So
good Lord.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
It was great. You don't get a lot of stories like that, but
that is awesome. What
was that?
We also have Sean Spar here. We were just talking about Lake St. Clair. Sean likes to fish Lake St. Clair a lot.
Okay. Awesome.
From Spar's Outdoors, he's here watching us. He's a guy who also fillets a lot of fish. You ought to
hit me up,
Sean. Think about this, Sean.
We'll talk about it, Sean. Maybe. It's fun seeing everyone come through the chat.
And here's another one.
Appreciate it, Roy. We spend a lot of time working on it. none of us really have let's say, a background in website design or anything like that. We're just a group of hungry, ambitious fishermen that we really want to put Sword to the top. So that's what we're doing. And it takes a lot of work, but we're a small team. We got 4 guys. Gonna write Sean down here.
You have the backing of Jim Grant. Now you have the backing of me. So
hell yeah.
So there's the guys who know
good names.
Thousands.
Yeah, man. That's it. You got a network in this industry.
Okay,
it's
guys.
Small.
Sword knives, fishing products. Remember the titanium pliers, carbon steel knives with beautiful, beautiful, beautiful handles that fit your hands. Man, that made so much difference when you're trying to clean 100 and you got 5 guys, you're trying to go through 100 trout.
Sure. And we just came out with this.
It also,
go ahead.
Redfish are so hard to clean because they have those carp scales, but they don't taste like a carp. So
no,
but man, those things. But those things take the edge off of any knife, but except for yours.
Well, it depends on how much you clean. I'm not going to BS anyone. These knives need to be sharpened just like anything else. But they do. I believe this. I'm not just saying it. Obviously, I'm biased, but our customers' feedback has been great. These knives, the edge will last much longer than anything else you're cleaning. So I truly believe that. You're going to get through any fish you need to get through with them. They're phenomenal.
That's awesome. But, Connor, it's getting to be 35, 40 after the hour.
Okay.
So would you like to do any shots?
Yeah, man. I'd give Jerry a shout out. Captain Jerry over in Kenosha with Resolute Charters. Great guy. He's going to put you on some fish. I'd love to give Jim Grant a shout out. He's making some of the best rods in the industry, whether it's saltwater or in the freshwater market. They're phenomenal. Like I said, I've got a few of his roller rods that I use offshore for tuna fishing, trolling for wahoo. They're phenomenal, bulletproof. There's so many people I could shout out right now, but those are 2 that come to mind for sure.
I could actually say, I'd like to thank Jim Grant for putting me in contact with you. Jim Grant of Grant Fishing Products.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I'm trying to get this last thing up.
Yeah, you're good.
And that's going to be the last. Jim Grant Rods, guys, just like scrolling across the bottom of the screen, grantrods.com. Check them out, guys. Put one of these things in your hand. You will feel the difference immediately. People say, people have actually asked me, is it worth what they cost? I say, well, you get what you pay for. And to me, it's worth every penny, every single penny.
Absolutely.
And yes, it does make a difference. But also, man, remember, I fish 60 times a year. I used to fish a lot more than that, but now I'm just not. Now I'm 2.5 hours away from the coast. I can't just go.
And Jim's been in the industry he's been in the industry over 40 years. The guy knows what you need. He's fished it all. And that's what it is.
He has. And he spends a lot of time up there in north central Wisconsin, up by Lake Chetek. So, anyways, guys, with that, I'm going to end the podcast. I'm going to tell you, what? It's Wednesday. I know you guys have ice up there. We don't have ice down here. But, get out there, go fishing, take your friends fishing, take your kids fishing, take your wife fishing. In your last days, you're not going to sit there and talk with your wife when you're on your deathbed. Man, didn't we have a great time watching Breaking Bad together? No, man, you're going to talk about the places you went, the people you met, the things you did, the fish you caught. What's that?
I said it was a great show.
It was a great show, and that's why I use that.
Yeah.
It was a great show, but it still can't compare to even catching a 13-inch speck.
Yeah, no, I'd rather be fishing for sure. Even if I'm not catching anything.
I'd rather be fishing too. Yeah, but you're learning what not to do then.
For sure. Wasting time on the
So
couch.
anyways, guys, Sean Spire fishes 60 times in 2 months. I get it, Sean. You got the life, dude. You've got the life. Sean's a regular guest on my show. We talk all the time about fishing.
Is Sean a charter captain?
No, he's just a fisherman, man. He's
Just
got
a
Spire Outdoors.
Okay.
No, he's not. He's just a fisherman. He's
Okay.
diehard guy, and he's got a YouTube channel called Spire Outdoors that's very, very, very
I'm gonna
popular.
check him out. Sean,
But anyways, I'm going
find
to
him
end the
and I'm gonna hit
podcast.
you up.
Sure. Anyways, yeah, I'm going to end the podcast with that. Connor, stay on. I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes afterwards.
Good deal. Sounds
Good night, guys. Thank you for a great podcast.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in.